So we have these gift tags. I used watercolor paper. I made these with watercolors, and I did these with acrylics because the acrylics are a little brighter. But what I did was I used my watercolor paper, painted a wash of watercolor, and then I cut the leaves out. Traced the leaf on the back, and then this one here. Oh, and this is a little embossing powder. And I thought these were really fun because they can not only make really nice, just like a gift tag. So if it's on your, you have a bow, and then you can just tie this around your bow or tie it around a ribbon. And you can write on the front or you can write on the back. And these also make beautiful bottle toppers. Let's say, like if you're having, for olive oil or wine or anything that you want to gift, it just makes a really beautiful gift tag because it's big and bold. And we all know what the gift tags look like, but we want to make something big and bold. So what I'm going to show you how I did these, and I'm going to just the basic supplies and the process. It's not really hard. It's actually really fun and easy, even though it takes a little time. But I think these are really fun. So what I have is watercolor paper. So you'll need your cold press 100, like 90 pound to 140 pound watercolor paper, and I have a block. This is just a block, and it's cold press. So we need that and then we need our watercolors. And then today I'm doing watercolors because I just don't feel like cleaning up the the acrylics. But you can use watercolors first and then acrylic later. I mean, there's really no limit as to what you can do on your paper. You need your colors, whether they be acrylics or watercolors. If you have embossing powder, great. You don't have to, but I'm going to show you my little embossing powder thing just to give those edges. I also have a stencil that I'm going to use, a hole punch, just a standard hole punch. This one is like a little, I think it's about 1/8 of an inch, but a small hole punch, or any size that you have. But if you don't have a hole punch, anything that will give you poke hole in your piece. I also have this really cool, it's a small hole punch. It makes a 1-inch hole, and that's how I was able to make these little berries, very simple berries for this little holly piece. So, you can just different things like that. I'm going to show you a little technique. I use a palette knife, but if you don't have a palette knife, just a scraper, scraping tool, a credit card, anything like that you can scrape. So you need something like that. Some heavy-bodied paint. If you have tubed paints, I've got this Holiday Snow. It's a special edition I got from Golden years ago, and I want to play with that and see how it looks. But heavy-bodied paint, or if you have texture paste, which in one of our classes we're going to learn how to make our own. But anything like heavy-bodied tubed paint is good. And if you have glitter, let's just have fun with the glitter. I also have some shimmer watercolors. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just paint some colors. And I'm going to use a kind of a big brush, and I'm going to kind of stick with the gold and green theme. I think I like this because I like to make leaves or holly or anything like that. And I'm just going to wet my green tones here, and then I'm going to get it nice and wet because I plan to do a lot of coverage here. Add a little blue just for fun. And now I'm just going to go ahead and do a very loose wash. Ooh, I like that combination of the Cascade green, and I'll tell you what greens they are. Cascade green and green apatite. I know Cascade, that's green apatite genuine, and Cascade, which looks almost blue right next to it. It's crazy. But so I'm just gonna put it on as thick. I don't mean thick, but concentrated, because watercolor dries a good percentage lighter than originally, when you put it out. So, and I'm going to go in one direction, kind of like a sweeping horizontal direction. I just want a variation of color, and just to see, just play with it. And you wet into wet, wet, dry, just to see how these colors mix together. This one, I'm not sure what this must be a phthalo, looks like a phthalo turquoise or something. I'm going to add a little yellow. I forgot this is my core paints, and they're just a little more vibrant, and so that isn't green apatite. I don't know what that is. It's something. because green apatite is a Daniel Smith color, and I'm not using Daniel Smith right now. I have no idea. I should probably look it up, but actually I do have a color chart somewhere. Oh yeah, I know how to do this. My little color chart, here we go. So that is Viridian, which looks very, well, this is Viridian right here, this green, which is a very pretty, kind of a cool green. And then the other color is sap green. This is the sap green, which is a yellow green. I'm really loving this. I wish that these colors would just stay this vibrant, but they won't. So I'm going to really try to pop them up a lot more than what I would normally do. Another thing is just like I said, keep it wet, because if you're doing this and you want to add some sparkle to it, you'd want to drop that sparkle in while it's still wet. So I'm going to just go as dark as I can and just play with the color. Just put those colors in there and let them kind of make their own pattern. I'm not trying to get a steady, straight wash. I'm just putting color down, but keeping it nice and wet. And I'm going to cover the whole paper because I might as well make use of the whole paper since I'll be making lots of tags. I like making sets of 5. If I can make a set of 5, I can gift them as well. So if you're not giving gifts, if you don't have a lot of people to give gifts to, you can, to give gifts to, you can make these the gift. So, which is fun because a lot of people, we get those boring gift tags. Why not pop them up into something really beautiful? Have something like this rather than the other gift tags. I mean, they're expensive. If you were to buy them in the store, gift tags are not cheap. So just cover as much with the green, and if you're using golds, that's fine. Any colors you want, really, because these are yours. You can do blues, just blues alone. I think that's pretty. I'll put some blue on this side just to add some blue tone to it. And now what I want to do is, because I've got it nice and wet and saturated, it's still going to dry a lot lighter though. So now I've got it nice and wet. So now I'm going to take some pearl paints, and I'm going to just, like some of these. I think this is really pretty. These are some colors I found. This is some blue sparkle. I think it's really gorgeous. So I'm going to go ahead, and of course you need to wet these in advance. Get them wet. And I've got this really pretty pearly sparkle. I think those are going to be really pretty. I need to get those wet because pearls take a while to dissolve. Pearlescent colors, for some reason, the way they're made, they just take a little bit more work to dissolve them. So I'm just going to put I see some green here, and a little bit of gold. And I'm just going to let that kind of sit and marinate a little bit. And then now this should have enough color. And I'm going to spatter this. I'll probably get it all over myself because this brush spatters really well, but it spatters everywhere, even on my glasses. The other day, when I was doing it this weekend, I was spattering on my glasses. Had spatter in my hair and everything. But so if you feel worried about, with acrylics, it's a problem because, you could spatter your clothes and you would never get it out. And I do like some of, everyone has some spattering tools. If you have them already, great. I don't have. This one's not spattering on me more than it is on the color. But anyway, you just try to spatter some metallics and just see what happens. Have fun. I don't even care if I contaminate this one. I'm just going to try to get some metallic colors on there, just to glimmer it up. These are going to be holiday gift tags. Ooh, there it goes all over. And then also get some green spatter. And maybe I should try a different brush because this one just goes everywhere. I think I'm going to grab a different brush because I really don't want to wear it all again today. So I'm going to just try a different brush. Hopefully we'll see what happens. I think all brushes are going to, I know someone had told me, and we'll talk about it afterwards. I know there's a tip on spattering that I never seem to take the tip. I just do my old way. So I'm just trying to spatter colors. That's not spattering much at all. So I'm just gonna get some more color. Maybe, there is a tool. There we go. That's getting a nice fine spatter, which I really like. I'm gonna try that again with this one here. So that white sparkle is going to be pretty. It's almost like snow. Just spatter, spatter, spatter. And I don't really care. You know, like I see lights going in directions now, and this one is. There, like that. It's gonna look pretty. Just I'm gonna let it sit. Now, of course, I don't have a lot of time to let that sit, but what I could do is heat it with my heat gun. Yeah, you should see I think you see my table. It spatters everywhere. So I'm gonna let that dry. I mean, I could try to speed up drying, but I won't really make you have to wait for that stuff. So I'm just gonna not make you wait for that. I do have some that I've already painted. So I'm gonna set this aside, but have your colors dry. I mean, it takes some time. I'm just gonna grab. I have to clean. I tell you, it's like clean up in aisle 3. There's so much spatter in places I wouldn't imagine spatter should be, but it is. It is. So I'll let that sit. And now, that's funny. Now what I have to do is make my pattern or make my leaf pattern. Now here's the thing. So I'm just using a piece of paper. You could use, if you have a piece of cardstock, a blank, just some scrap. It doesn't have to be perfect paper or anything like that. And you could decide about what size you want your gift tags to be. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this in half. Kind of, not really in half, just going to cut it. It's not quite exactly half. But I'm going to fold it. I'm going to fold a section. So we've got, there you go. So I've got a little section. Now I could draw. What I love about leaves and things like that, if you just draw one side, which I'm going to do, just like hearts, you can draw for the holly. I'm just going to create like just a shape like this. So I just created a little scallop with a pencil. And what I love about doing this is now that I folded it, because I folded it in half, when I cut it, it's going to look great no matter what, because it's symmetrical. So it's going to have, so my little unsymmetrical lines here are going to just look like I meant it. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that. And now what I have is a really nice, kind of a nice shape, a holly shape. So that's one of my leaves. And then the other, I'm going to take, and that's a medium-sized tag. It's not a huge tag. I made another one. It's a little smaller than that one, but not too different. So now I'm going to fold this piece in half, and I'm going to create just my leaf, just a basic leaf shape. So I've got a piece of cardstock, and I'm just going to kind of make a little place up here at the top of the leaf, and then I'm just going to go out and then create that shape. That's a leaf shape. Now, half of it, just like, and it doesn't matter. You can always, if you want to reshape it, you can reshape it. After you open it up, you can see if you like the shape. So I'm just going to actually, in this one, I'm leaving a little stem piece up at the top, and I'm going to open it up, and I like that shape. I think it's pretty. So you can see, there it is. So it's so much easier to deal with when you do it when you cut it out like that. So now I'm going to kind of show you what I did with, here is some green. This was watercolored with the sparkly spattered sparkles, and you can see I already made some tags. But here I'm going to turn it over on its, so that the color side is down. And I'm going to make I think just some green leaves would be pretty, just some lighter green. And I'm going to go around, and just turn it over, and I'm going to use this as a template now. I'm going to just trace lightly with my pencil using my little paper template. I'm going to do it at least 5 times because I want to make a set of 5. And they don't have to be exactly perfectly the same, but it's nice to have, for a set. If you're doing a gift tag set that you want to give away, then it's kind of nice to make them the same size approximately. So just trace around your template, and you can reuse your template over and over. And then just make the best use of the space just by kind of staggering them. And this watercolor paper is amazing. Good watercolor paper, or it doesn't have to be good, expensive stuff. It could be the Canson XL. It can be just watercolor paper. Paper is so much heavier weight than cardstock. It's a very nice weight, and it's very malleable and pliable because it has some cotton content in it. So it's a really nice paper to do this kind of work on. You can mold it a little bit, shape it a little bit. So I think I've got my five shapes. Now you can also want to save all the little extra pieces because you'll have other shapes that you're going to cut out of smaller little the little leftover pieces. So here we have our shapes, and now we just start to cut. And I always like to cut inside the pencil line so that I don't have to erase it later. But if you don't cut inside the pencil line and you have some pencil showing, you just erase it later. And then we just have our little, this time my leaf is going to have that little top part so that I can punch the hole a little bit easier. It's not necessary. It seems like the pointing ones work too. So however, whatever shape you make is uniquely yours and spontaneous. And here's my first leaf shape there. And then I want to I don't want to cut through all this because I can use those again. I'm just going to cut around. And I won't do all five. I won't cut all five in front of you right now, but I'll cut maybe two more. I'll cut this one and another one. So we'll have three to show you. And I can change up the shape if I want a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and you can keep, if you don't like sharp edges, you can make your edges round, kind of rounded if you want, but sharp edges are kind of fun. You know, like that. So I've got two, and then I'll do one more, and then I'll just save the other two for later. But if you want to do all five, of course, or how many you want to do, it's up to you. So far I've made quite a few tags, and I'm going to gift some, and I'm going to use some for gift giving to embellish some things. And these are nice because they can be mailed out easily. So you can have, if you want to send somebody a gift that you can't see, you're going to see for a while. Like I'm going to send, I won't say, one of my kids who I haven't seen in a while, she loves to host parties. And I think it would be really fun to make some of these for her so that she can have labels for her guests or dinner, dinner place cards, all kinds of things. So I'm just going to do these three for now, just to show you what's next. So there's ways, what I did with this one, this is this one here. So what I did was, the next step is I took a brush and I just painted. I'll go ahead and paint these, but I'll do very light. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I'm going to do a little line down the middle. Just a small line that kind of paint, just to look, let's see, just a nice little line right down the middle. That's not a little line, but that's okay. I'm not using the finest brush. But so just, to give it a little contrast, I'm just putting these lines. And no, that's not necessary, but it kind of makes it a little more interesting, I think. I'll let that be. And I actually should probably paint these while I'm at it so that since I have, oops, I can't because I didn't cut them out. I'll wait. All right, so I'm gonna let those sit for a minute. And this is where you'll need your heat gun, if you have a heat gun, embossing powder, if you have it, just, any stampers and people who've done stamping for years, rubber stamping, embossing was like the magical technique back 25, 30 years ago. And I think it's still magical. I just love it. So now that these are dry, I've got this clear embossing pad. You can use, it's a slow drying pad. I'd like to know how to make some. I'm going to figure this out, how to make embossing ink. I know that I think you can make it out of glycerin, but I'll find out. And then we can do a DIY embossing. But for now, I've got my embossing pad. Another thing that I do is I take a piece of copy paper and I just fold it in half. I'm going to have my little pieces I'm going to emboss right there. I fold that in half. I've got the pad and I've got the little pieces I'm going to do my thing with. So I decided I think I want these to have a gold on the edge instead of the silver. I'm going to try a gold. So I've got this, it's a detail gold, and what I'm doing is I'm going to sprinkle this right in the crevice, right in this crack right there, about that much. And now I'm just going to take my pad and I'm going to run it the sides, and I'm going to be really generous with this. I kind of want a lot of embossing powder on that side. There's things called embossing pens, but I like the pads because they give it like a very unexpected look. I'm not trying, I just want to make sure I get lots of ink on it, lots of clear ink. If you have gold embossing ink, that's great because you can see what you're doing, but you don't need it. That's why I like the clear, because then I can just dip it. Now I'm just going to take the edges and I'm just going to do kind of what I did with the paint. I'm just just dipping it into the sides, and I'm going to take it and dip the whole thing. The embossing powder, if you don't know, if you haven't done it already, embossing powder will only stick to the ink, parts that have the ink. So you just tap off the excess, and then we can watch the magic. I just love embossing. So now I'm going to just take my embossing gun and holding it close to, or fairly close to, and you can see that gold happening. It's melting the powder. And if you've never used an embossing gun, always be careful with the heat, because it's very hot. It's actually intended to melt paint and varnish off of furniture. So you just want to keep it away from your fingers if you can. I mean, absolutely, follow safety precautions. And, you can use the tweezers also if you really don't want to risk getting your fingers burned. It's pretty directed, so the gun is only heating in a very small area. So you can see how that's looking, the pretty border. So if you have something like that, it's a fun way to do the borders. And it finishes the leaf. I'm going to do the back side too, just to make sure I don't have any loose powder. There we go. So look how that looks. I just think that is so pretty. I can also build layers. If I wanted to add more, I can just repeat the process on the leaf. Like, let's say I wanted to add more. I do like this one. I don't want to mess with it, but let's see. I'll try another one. I'm going to get a little bit more generous here with the powder. I'm just going to kind of.
Karen, is the embossing gun different than the heat gun that you use?
Yeah, this one, I do find that Ranger heated tool is not directed. It's very wonderful for getting, large areas of heat, but
Yep.
it doesn't emboss very well. So I like this little heated, this one that has a smaller nozzle in it.
Sure. Okay.
And I'll tell you the brand of this one if you're, just so you can see it. I'll show you in a second. That's a pink one. I know it's really kind of ugly looking, but but it works. So I'm going to push. Doing this, and I add a little bit more powder, or a little bit more to the edge, because I just love that. And also, there's ways, if you take some embossing ink that just doesn't, it's not in a pad, but it's just the plain embossing ink, you can put it on brush it on. In fact, we should try this. I've never done this before, but I could maybe take a stamp and just put some dots, or I could spatter it on, and I could create the same raised effect wherever that powder is, or wherever the ink is, the powder will stick to. So I'm going to tap it off, and now this particular gun is made by, it's Johnson. It says a Johnson Electrical Home Appliance Company. I don't know, but I think we called it the Pink Pig back then, and other people would put little wiggly eyes on it because it kind of looks like a pink pig. So I'm going to just go ahead, and I added more powder, which gives it that. I love the effect. And this is fairly nicely directed nozzle, pointy nozzle, sort of a pointy. It's about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. And there's different brands. There's so many different ones out there. I'm just being careful to keep my hands away from the heat source. because it's the other one, the heat tool that I've been using to dry my watercolors, that's that Ranger heated tool. I tried embossing with it, and it just wasn't happening. It just didn't work. It didn't work. It just, maybe because it wasn't directed, and these are such small pieces to be trying to do that with. Now here's the thing, you know, have all this powder, and I know that stampers here that are experienced know this trick, but this powder, we don't want to waste it. So we take our folded piece of paper and we just put it right back in. So we do not lose any of the powder, and it doesn't get all over the place. So that's a great way to save. I mean, I've had this powder for a long, long time, and I mean, I don't emboss that much, but I guess if I embossed a lot, it would run out sooner. But see, these are my two favorite colors is gold and silver, because, you know, you just gild, just a little bit of gilding really changes that. But if you don't have that, the gold, silver and gold paints would work on the edge. Just brush it on the edge. Or if you want to be really glittery, you can add some things like this, you know, sticky, glittery stuff. But let's say you want to have some texture on your paint, on your paper. Now this one already had some. I just threw acrylic paint I just took a paintbrush and or stencil brush and stenciled it over. That's what this is. So there's no texture to it. But I want to add some texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stencil, and since it's the same stencil, I'm going to try to line it up as much as I can towards, let's see if I can find, needs to line up. I can find just kind of rotate that thing. I don't know which side it is, but I'm going to try to find it. Let's see, maybe this side. That's the hard part, trying to find where your stencil was. Oh, there it is. I think I found it. Yay. There, okay. So I lined up my stencil, and this is what's so great. You can do lots of layering with this. So I'm going to take some paint. I'm going to put it on. I don't have my palette with me. Just going to put it on a piece of paper. Here we go. I'll just stick it on here. And I need you need something that has some body to it, like either a stencil paste or something with some that holds a peak. Whatever you have. It doesn't have to be paint too. It could just be clear modeling paste. That would look interesting too. I'm just gonna, now that I've got it lined up over the original one, I'm just taking my palette knife and I'm gonna scrape it right on top, just to give change some contrast and sparkle that I didn't have before. It doesn't have to be beautifully perfect. I'm just scraping as much of that off, basically like spreading icing on a cake, kind of. You know, you kind of lay that palette knife flat and try to get as much as I can through that stencil, and really not really too thick. Just see how it looks. I thought it'd be fun to try a contrasting color. But what this will do is it will raise the area. It will give a texture that you didn't have before. So let's see, I'm going to add a little more paint. A little bit more of this holiday snow. And it's heavy-bodied enough, so good. If it doesn't hold a peak, then it's not going to work for this. So I wouldn't try it if you didn't have paints without a kind of a peak to it that holds its form. But you know, you don't have to get those stencil paints. Heavy-bodied acrylics work just fine. If you have a tube, anything, or I would think, here we go. Let's see what this looks like. So I'm just scraping off as much as I can so that my stencil, there you go. See how that kind of, it's going to bring a dimension to it that wasn't there before. I like the white. I think it's fun. Now, when you want to repeat something, like, so you just try to find that stencil where it was, and I'm just going to kind of go similar in direction. So you can take small stencils and just kind of layer them so that it looks like it's a repeating pattern. And I'll just go ahead and do this. Scrape it, and then don't really have to have it covering everything, but you know, just a little bit to give that sparkle. And this is a lot of fun. Now you just need to give yourself time to have that paint dry, because it doesn't dry that quickly. So here we go. I'm just going to do that and see what that looks like. So that kind of looks fun. And then I could make a pair of leaves maybe. And then always, of course, I didn't do it, but if you have time, well, actually, even if you don't, like for me, I usually throw the stencil right away into a bath of water. But I didn't put my bath of water today out. So, whatever you do, just kind of wipe off the excess acrylics, because acrylics don't come off that easily once they dry on your stencil, and they may clog the holes. So just kind of dab up whatever, get that excess off so that it will dry with holes in place. So I wanted to show you the progress of this. It's drying very nicely. It's much lighter than it was, but it's still really pretty, and I can't wait to make leaves out of that, or holly shapes. So the next thing is to show you what I do with the cutting the, well, let's see these little guys. I'm going to come back to these. I'm going to cut some from a different piece. So here's some I did yesterday. Gold paint with silver. So silver paint and then a silver stencil paste. And this is the silver with the gold and the gold with the gold. And I just love the subtlety of the silver and the gold instead of the contrast. I just think it's kind of fun. So I want to make sure I have plenty of room to make more leaves, but at the same time, I do want to make my little accent leaves. So I think I'm going to make these gold accent leaves. So I'm going to just take a little bit right in here, just a little bit. And I'm going to make some small leaves, and you could draw them ahead of time if you want, or you can cut them out freehand. But if I draw them, let's say I just got to make little leaf shapes. You don't have to be perfect, because there we go, like kind of just smaller, a great deal smaller than your original leaf. And now I'll just cut them out. And with the holly, you could make a circle to make that berry at the top. So here's one, and I love it. Look, that was a surprise, but I love the way that little piece turned out, and that's going to look gorgeous right there. It's like a little jewel. Instead of having to buy embellishments where you have to spend money buying all these little pieces, you can make your own little embellishments. You don't need to spend tons of money. You can always use what you have to decorate and make your own dimensional embellishments, just using the simple materials. So here we've got this one, and I like that. They're both unique, and then I'll save these for the other leaves. And I can emboss these edges or not. I don't think I'm going to do it right now, but if I do want to have a little color on the end, you could take, like, let's say, I've got a green. I can find it. There we go. Got a green stamp pad. I could edge this a little bit with some green, just to kind of finish it off, because that white edge. If you don't have a stamp pad, just even your watercolors. So now I've got that sort of finished it off. It kind of gives it a finished edge. I'm just going to do it on both sides, like that. Now another little thing I like to do, let's give that a sec to dry. Another little thing I like to do, because these are leaves, I like to give them a shape, like score. You could fold them in the middle like this. Just take them and fold them in half completely. Just find that halfway point and fold them. And if you do it, you can even kind of make that along that painted line that you have. This actually will give you a beautiful dimensional leaf shape rather than just a plain flat one. But there's another way that I like to do it. So now that leaf has a feeling of dimension, and I can also form it with my fingers. You can see how it curves. Watercolor paper is so beautiful for that. And I could form it on this end. So now I have a leaf that has some shape, and it really holds its shape really well. And I could do, now there's another little thing I have to pull out, another little tool that I haven't gotten rid of because I just love it. It's this little guy, this little thing. I'm going to lay it on its front, and I see this little place. It's got this, it's called a score doll. It's just one of these gadgets that I had to have. I just loved it. And I'm able to score that and make that fold really easily. So you can do that if you have a scoring tool, but if you don't need one. But that's just wanted to show you that all ways that you want to, if you want to score, you can put a bone folder down and just create that score line as well. And the same thing, I love creating that slight curve on both of these. I've got the curve now. And now the last part of this is I really think that these need something. Now what I have, I've got different kinds of sparkly things, and I know I've got it somewhere. It's on my table. Oh, there it is. I have these it's a sticker glue, and this one is it's called Stickles Glitter Gel, and it has like chunks of stars and gold glitter, and it's yummy. So I think that's gonna be pretty. What's nice is now I have a dimension. I have some dimension here, so I could pick this up and just rub it, and it will go into those grooves. And I am getting my hands totally messed up. But hey, it's that time of year. So it's kind of a glitter glue, but it's in a really fun kind of, I guess you could use a palette knife too, if you didn't want to be as messy as I am today. But now I could see that the little stickers or the little stars aren't spread around. So you can just move the stars around until you get them placed where you want them. And then it will dry just like that. I think those are so pretty. And I'll spread some of that on this one. If you also can take some iridescent paint acrylics and push them into the grooves too. I'll show you that in a minute. I'll do that. So you can see how you can just create so much dimension with your acrylic paints and just layering them. So now I've got that little sticky stuff going. It does need to dry. If I need to expedite things, what I will probably do is I'm going to take my heat gun and be very gentle to heat, at least to get that. Need to wipe my hands. Oh boy, it's got too much glue on there. Baby wipes. Best invention since sliced bread, right? So here we go. Now I need to kind of get those a little dry before I do the next thing. I'm just going to put them on top of this, and I'm going to try to see if I don't melt them with my heat gun or blow them away. They may just blow away though. Yeah, they're going to blow away. What I could do is take my sticker or my pliers. Oops, we want this to get off the table. These feet are important on these glue guns because they keep your nozzle off the table. So what I'm going to do here is I've got my little pinchy tool here, this little tiny grabber, and that is going to help me dry that. Try at least to get the kind of a crust on that. I don't want to go too hot because this isn't really embossing powder, but hopefully it will at least let me dry it to a nice, just so I can touch it. Looks like I can. I'll do the same with that. Patience is probably a virtue on this thing, but I really want to show you. Oh, I know I could show you on some other ones that are partially completed. I'll still dry this a little bit. You can just see like the multi-layering kind of thing. That's going to look so pretty. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. So while I'm getting to my other ones that are partially finished, I know they're here. Here we go. No, that's not it. Somewhere. Nope. Nope, there they are. I had a plan here to show you the steps. Here we go. There's one. Here's one. Yay. And then these two. Now, these are my textured ones. So I thought it would be fun. It was maybe to do something a little unique that I didn't do. I could rub some paint on top, like maybe that snow color might look interesting, or if not, some silver, but just to make them different, multi-layered, or I can just leave them alone. And I know I could do the embossing on the edge. So on this one, I'm going to do gold embossing, and this one I'll do the silver. And then what I'll do is I'll alternate. I'll put this one will have this, and this one will have that. So they kind of work as a set. But this one I think is I'm ready. Yep, it feels ready to punch a hole. So I'm going to take my hole punch, and I'm gonna put the hole through both of these. Maybe not at the same time. It's not that. If you find a place that you're gonna punch the hole, and I'm just gonna go a little below the top of the stem. I've got the hole, it's like a little hole, and then I'll do the same with this side, this one here. So such sturdy paper. It's amazing, watercolor paper. And then I'll go ahead and I'll put the, punch this one also. I'll just punch the top only. And this has still the glue, still a little wet, but it's fine. Still gonna work. I'll punch this one. Okay, next step is putting it together. I have these really pretty, you can have different colors of string or cord, whatever you've got. I have some gold cord coming and it's not here yet, so I'm gonna have to just deal with what I have. But like this stuff is so beautiful. Baker's twine. You could make it a holiday color by just adding the red and white. I kind of like this green and yellow combination for this because it doesn't have to be just for a holiday. It could be for any time, gifting at any time. So you can just pick your colors. And I'm just going to feed this through like this here. And I'm going to just, let's say that's a little over a foot of string. And then if you want to add beads, if you happen to have beads laying around, I don't anymore, but I used to have a lot of beads. And I'm also shaping the little tiny leaf, just bending it a little bit. And now I'm just going to tie it at the top. Simple slip knot. And you could add, it'd be fun to add a homemade bead, I think, a nice big homemade pony bead, which we could do beads. We have the clay that we had last year. But here is a very simple gift tag, very elegant. You can write the name on here, or you can write a sentiment, or you can stamp a sentiment, and then you can write the person's name on the back, or even a sentiment on the back. But these would look so pretty around a bow or a gift, or on a bottle. I'll go ahead and do this one. And just kind of keep them, if you're going to give them as a gift, then you can just pack them up in a little homemade envelope. And you've got a really gorgeous homemade gift or a hostess gift for, a housewarming party, or just anyone who just moved. A lot of people are moving these days, I've noticed. A lot of people are selling their houses and moving to different areas. So, or they're just downsizing and they want to have, live simpler. There you go. So there, and then just making a set really will make a really nice statement.